Time now for our rants and raves, starting with Dan.
I want to give a rave to the media reform group Free Press. I think this may not be the first time I've done this, but Free Press led the public battle to preserve net neutrality, and this past week they won a significant victory. The Senate voted to overturn the FCC's provision to do away with net neutrality. It's probably going to die in the House, and if it doesn't, President Trump will veto it. But nevertheless, this was a big moment for Internet freedom and for Free Press.
Great. Good week for Ed Markey.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a rant for the New York Times, which just ran this great, big, fascinating story about the origins of the FBI investigation into possible collusion between Donald Trump and Russia. My rant is because in the piece, excuse me, the Times referred to a story that came out right before the presidential election that some of you will remember, some viewers will remember it, titled Investigating Donald Trump. I think it was FBIC's No Clear Link to Russia, or words to that effect. The tone was exculpatory. The reality of this FBI investigation into one of the presidential candidates was buried in the 10th graph of that piece back before the election. This new New York Times piece essentially said that that was a mistake, that they buried the lead, they downplayed that story. The implication was that they shouldn't have. I am ranting because this is something the Times should be dealing with in, say, an editor's note. Mm-hmm. They should be owning their flawed coverage directly, rather than in this sort of, quiet, passive way where if you blink, you miss it.
The public editor ripped them at the time, and guess what? There's no longer a public editor.
Yeah, that makes it easy, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Callie.
Well, this is a rant rave. So I'm ranting, Fox News finally getting around to dealing with the race discrimination suits. There were many. The chief person was Kelly Wright, who was an anchor there, and he files, and I was shocked when he came forward. And he also represented some other people who had various concerns at different levels. Anyway, they paid off at $10 million. A third of that's going to go to the lawyers, so we're going to see how little money is going to be left. And I would assume Kelly would get most of it, but as a part of that, he has to leave the network, or he agreed to leave, and he left quite graciously, and left saying, but I have a right to be here. We all do, and I want to make that clear. But I am distressed by it. We don't, just where the New York Times did not explain, we don't know we don't know what's going on here, and obviously a lot of stuff
because there was another layer of that, and that is that they settled all the suits at one time. They swept them all out the door under the exact same terms, made everybody sign these things and say, so they got rid of every, and they weren't all race, some of them were sexual, some of them, so they just cleared the deck and said, we're starting over. Yeah. And we should have heard the specifics of
Yes, we should.
All right, where are we? Lila.
So my rave this week is for Wired Magazine, which is continuing to report on the news through the lens of science. This week, the House Science Committee was talking about how global warming isn't really a thing, and maybe some rocks falling off the cliffs of Dover is what caused the sea levels to rise all around the world. They have a great piece debunking that and giving us the real information. I'm also a cooking nerd, so I love Joe Ray's reviews of kitchen gadgets and gear that you do or do not need. They're just fun reads, and it's a must-read on my list.
Okay, great. Well, I don't really have a rant or a rave, but I have an update because a number of our listeners and viewers have asked us if we have any new information on Kevin Cullen. He's the Boston Globe reporter columnist who's been on administrative leave since writing a column suggesting that he had been at the Boston Marathon bombing in 2013, even though he had reported earlier that he was a mile away. And it started a discussion about some other things he had written and said at the time, and it is now being thoroughly investigated by an independent 3-person panel. We don't know when the actual report will drop. Today, I believe, is the end of the 3rd week, but it took a little bit of time to get going for various reasons. So I don't think it's really been in full swing until the last 2 weeks. We don't know. It could be as early as next week, but we have no certainty about that. So that's all the information we have on it for now. It's going to come, and BU graduation is this week, and Communications Dean Tom Fiedler is one of the people investigating. So I would guess before Memorial Day. That would be my best guess, but I don't know for sure. That would be in that middle column.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.